Or do you want to clean sheets? I also clean sheets.
I got a laugh without actually saying anything. So I'm really pleased to be here, and what better way to really start this presentation off than a video of a sheep. Everyone else does cats, we at Otrivine do sheep, so I hope you enjoyed that. And really that sets the tone for the rest of the presentation. We do things differently. We zig when everyone else is zagging. So it's not what I said. Hashtag that some of you will be familiar with is another one at the bottom of that page, which I know a lot of you are using. So throughout the course of the presentation, please continue to do so. Okay, audience participation is my thing, all right? So for the next 45 minutes, please do shout out, try and heckle me if you want, see if I can't respond. But the first thing I want to start with really is to understand, with such a spread of people from all over the globe, how you guys got here today. So, who's gonna tell me? Train? Plane? Armoured vehicle? Taxi and bus? Yeah, I walked. There's a few different modes of transport. But I think what I wanted to really tell you is that the way I got here today was that Google used its technology to really seek me out. It's my understanding that I am the best person they could find in the whole of planet Earth to actually deliver this keynote speech. They could have picked anyone, but I do have the best credentials. I've got so many publications against my name. I've got the right attitude that Google were looking for. So they hand-picked me to present to you today. So I'm really pleased to be here. But there are some rumors going around which I really want to quash now, is that simply Google, again using its technology, punched in 5 keywords to find someone that would actually fly over from London to Dublin today to give you a talk. Healthcare, marketer, 10th of July, Dublin, available. And I am those things. So as the talk continues, feel free to come to your own conclusions, but I'm pretty much favouring number 1 as to why I'm here. Okay. I think the talk earlier just really struck home with me about how people can be honest with each other, and digital provides that platform. But we saw someone on stage earlier really, giving an insight into the struggles that they went through. And I'm not going to get to that level of honesty, I must admit. But what I will tell you is that I really struggled knowing what to wear today. I really did. So I work for a big organisation. We have a dress code. People stick to it. Now I'm coming to you guys, to Google, and people that obviously wanted to maybe mingle with other Googlers. I'm sure you've all gone through that thought process. So I did have a haircut last week. I did have a shave. I am now trying to strike a balance between what is regarded as smart and maybe a bit of cool. So I just wanted a hand-raising exercise to see whether I did, in fact, strike that balance. So, guys, do I look smart? Hands up. Okay, a few. What about, and this is where I was really, really going for, cool. Anyone think I look cool? No, not so many, not so many. So out of everyone, and I must stress that these two are not mutually exclusive. So did I go for the schmool look, the smart cool? Anyone? Come on, raise your hands. Thank you. Very good. Right, and then just a last one. So just be interested to see if anyone in the room, and raise your hands if this is true, raise your hands if you can't actually point at the ceiling. Yes, one person. Right, I went to a comedy gig recently and I got caught out by Tim Vine, who got the whole room to put their hands up and point at the ceiling. So there we are. I'm not a comedian, I'm a marketeer, and this is where we're going to go for the rest of the presentation. Okay, now, audience participation is not over yet. And we dug out the Android mic earlier. I need to give you a bit of background as to what I'm doing here, really. And I've put a slide together myself. A bit of clip art at the top, you can see there. They are 2 different images. So anyone want to have a stab at describing to the room my journey? Anyone brave enough? Come on. Thank you. All right, that should be a mic that you're just speaking to. So take us from the top.
College.
correct. What did I study?
Something science related?
Yeah, indeed. There's plants in the pick. Biochemistry. Next one. It's a big billboard.
Advertising.
Correct. And there's a word in the middle. Yeah.
Advertising within the healthcare industry.
Correct. Yeah. Next up. Now, this is a bit cryptic, and I apologize, so I'll help you out with this one.
Digital advertising.
So I've moved into digital consultancy. So I think the whole analogy there was putting things together.
Big company, healthcare company.
Yeah. So then joined Novartis in marketing.
And it was acquired, or...
There we are. Yeah, it's a joint venture, but now I am GlaxoSmithKline. So as of 3 months ago, that's exactly what happened. So thanks very much for taking part and returning it. Okay, so that's my background. I'm all about healthcare, always have been. So I don't know, are there any other healthcare industry people in the room today? You've got one. Where are you from? Sanofi, welcome. And yourself? Medical. Ah, interesting. Yeah. So I've got some stalwarts of the industry here to help me out, but I kind of need to gauge the audience. So the way I'm going to present today is actually kind of give a flavour as to how we went about doing things within our industry, and there's many parallels you can draw between other heavily regulated industries, how you do good creative, how you use digital as a tool. Okay. Right, what I'm about to show you is quite disturbing. I had to get special permission to actually show you this today. So, please, if you want to look away, do. But, there aren't any kids in the room. No, they're all adults, okay? You play the video. So pretty harmless, right? It's a 10-second vine that our guys produced, and we were desperate to use that as part of our allergy campaign this year. But I was told that it was offensive, it was distasteful, it wasn't going to work, and it was a straight-out no. So this is the company that I've joined, which I'm hoping will actually allow me to extol the virtues of doing something different. Because in my previous life, we actually did this.
Oh, Kenneth, stop messing about. Get some Otrivine mucus relief. A quick spray to last all day.
Okay, we've got some laughs. So, thoughts? What did you make of all that? Come on, you have a reaction. I heard some laughs. Is it horrible? Is it horrendous? Is it disgusting? You think it's funny? Well, we've got one person saying it's funny. Anyone agree with this one person saying it's funny? Yeah? Who thinks it's outrageous and disgusting and abhorrent? Really? You don't like it at all? Don't like it at all? Okay, that's the reaction that we got from our consumers. It split the room in half, right? It's so polarizing. We called him Kenneth, so he had a name, and he was all over the internet last year. We did really well out of it, and today I'm going to talk you through how we got to that point whereby we had approval to go out with a man baring his chest with matted, greasy chest hair, rubbing himself, as part of a corporate pharmaceutical firm. So this is what we achieved. The weather. That was my joke about the weather. That really won't work anymore. Okay, so I didn't know how you guys would react to that, but I had a good idea. I thought I'd probably get 50-50, but it seemed like most of you are actually on board with it. So that's a good result. So I think the theme of my presentation is that no one knows how people are going to react, but it's a lot of fun finding out. Nothing at all? Sometimes you'll get that, right? So you've got to be brave, right? I knew that potentially have someone in the front row who could have let out a scream, but I didn't get it. So, but be brave, do stuff that pushes the boundaries, and then find out and learn from those results. Okay, not okay. So why is that? Right, Otrivine. Anyone in the room know what Otrivine actually is? Yeah? Is it familiar with the nasal decon then? Anyone else? So it's a nasal spray. Put it up your nose and it clears congestion. It's pretty boring, and not many people are interested in it. We have very low awareness levels in the UK and Ireland. And over the past couple of seasons, we've been trying to become the #1 nasal decon with only 10% share of voice. So we've been really, really struggling to cut through against our competitors. TV, so Novartis were a big believer in TV. And as far as they were concerned, they actually saw responses to TV campaigns on other brands. So they were keen to try and get those same responses on Otrivine. We were using global copy. So many of you in the room will probably be nodding in agreement with that. If you're a local market with a different need, you still have to use what you're given. You can only adapt it so much. So we weren't getting any cut through with our global copy. And then along came this. So a flat brand for 3 years, we get given a 15% growth target. Same investment levels. How the hell are we going to get to that if we keep doing what we've been doing for however long? So one thing that was working for us was a campaign that was not what I said, which was one of the videos that you saw at the start. And I just want to show that video, which really talks you through the campaign.
Millions of people catch a cold and are miserable each year. And increasingly, these people share their misery with others on social media and the web. That's why we at Otrivine decided to hire a dedicated social media manager, Nez Kieselbach. Nez has a keen nose for congestion-related tweets, and his true expertise comes to the fore in his selection of the right tweet for the right type of sufferer. The sufferer then receives a carefully chosen tweet from Nez's Twitter handle, @OtrivineUK, and a link to one of 4 videos on YouTube. Nez and the team have been overwhelmed by the responses we got back. By listening and responding to sick people just looking for some much-needed virtual sympathy and then offering them a solution, Nez and Otrivine are managing to make people feel better both emotionally and physically.
So that campaign was really successful for us. It was quite innovative within our category, industry. The fact was we were using social listening to really go after those people that were calling out that they had symptoms that we could then provide a solution to. So engagement rates on this campaign were as high as 30%. So for every person that we tweeted, 30% of them were actually then replying, favoriting, retweeting, etc. So we knew we had something, but it didn't have the scale that we required in terms of taking it to the next level. So with this case study under our belts, it was then a question of how do we get people on board who are in the TV mindset that still want to keep doing what they've been doing for the last however many years, and then go digital. So in terms of Otrivine, it was a perfect set of circumstance. We were a small brand. We were able to say that we've got good results from digital, and there was kind of low risk from the business in terms of letting us go off and test something that other brands could then apply. So what we needed was an alternative to TV, and this is where Google came in. So we worked with our partners over at Starcom, and they introduced us to the Google team. And we looked into an alternative to TV that had the scale, that could actually work for us in terms of reaching our target audience. And it was a case of just defining the language that we use then with our internal stakeholders. Don't talk about YouTube as digital if you've got people in the old school way of thinking. Tell them that YouTube is in fact the 5th biggest channel in the UK. Tell them that your target audience actually over-indexes on YouTube. Tell them, which is what we did, that if you have great quality content, that you don't pay as much for it. So all of these arguments we took to our business leaders, and slowly but surely they started coming round to that. This is Will. This is our power treater. And I'm looking in the room, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple of power treaters here today. So a power treater, as we defined them, they were skewed male. You'll probably have guessed then from the creative why it appeals more to the male audience. Well, that was a deliberate point. They are ABC1, they're affluent, they've got money. What they don't have is time. So they've got no time to be sick. So the power treater is the audience we were trying to reach. YouTube, funny enough, was the channel that they loved. They absolutely loved it. This really spells out the business case for why we went down the YouTube avenue. So you can see here, small budget, small brand, small budget, big aspirations. We would need to spend equivalent of £2.3 million on a TV campaign in order for us to then drive the awareness levels that we needed. Working with the likes of TrueView, we could actually deliver the same and meet the same business objectives with a much smaller budget, but only if we used content that people actually wanted to see, not the global TV ad. So what we didn't do was just use an adaptation of the global TV ad and put it on YouTube, because we'd have ended up spending the same kind of budget. What we did was built up an argument to take to our franchise category colleagues to say, look guys, we need to do something different here. We need your permission to move forward and create what turned out to be Kenneth. This is a horrible slide. Absolutely horrible slide, but this is a slide that I used to simply map out the roles and responsibilities within a really complex matrix company, right? So who's actually approving what, who's creating what, who's then producing what. So this is not something that I'm going to dwell on any further, but please do, when you go back to your day jobs, think about how you actually get the freedom, because you need freedom to go off and do something like Kenneth, and you need your top stakeholders to grant you that. So be really clear on roles and responsibilities of people. We got that. It took a long while, and thinking back to last year, we were in a position to produce this campaign from July. We collected stakeholder approvals for the following couple of months. It took a lot of effort, but it was totally worth it. So this is what the campaign turned out to look like. In terms of the breakdown of channels, we focused on YouTube. You can see that we had a TrueView campaign together with a homepage takeover. They worked really well for us. But in and around that were lots of other channels that were running in parallel. We had some great success with the AOD network. BuzzFeed, again, was something that we were really keen to actually trial, and we did, and we learned a lot from that. So I'm going to take you through now some of the channels that we actually activated. But at this stage, is there any questions from the room? And be keen to answer them. You can even use mic. No questions? Right. Save them to the end as well if you want. Right, this is the YouTube takeover. I'll just talk as it actually plays on screen. But this was our big ticket item of last winter. This is something that I am truly proud of. The way in which there's a greased up Manchester on show for the whole day on the 11th of December in 2014 really was a game changer. I remember vividly. So I was in a hotel. It was 12:01, 1 minute past midnight, and I checked my laptop, I checked my phone just to see whether or not Kenneth was live. He was, and that day we had 26 million people actually seeing for the first time Kenneth's chest. We made a lot of impressions on people, quite literally. And you can see here, this is how it ended, right? So we didn't want our journey to just stop. It wasn't a straightforward banner ad at the top of YouTube.com. It was something that then led the consumer onto more content from Otrivine. If they wanted more from Otrivine, they could take it. So we had more content, a link to the website, ability to share on social, and lo and behold, much to the aggravation of the agency, we had a big old logo in the bottom right. But this is what happened. Half of the people that decided to sit through Kenneth then went on to find out more about Otrivine. So as marketeers, when you're having the discussions about, well, you know, it's got to be entertaining, but how much branding do you put in it? It needs to provide a click-through at the end for them to actually go on and find out whether or not Otrivine works for them. TrueView. So this was our TV analogy, really. And it did real wonders for us. So this was our best performing channel by far. We did spend the biggest proportion of our budget on it, but it delivered. It really did. And as the guys have been talking earlier on, you know, the functionality that's inbuilt with TrueView allows you to really monitor all of your brand metrics as you go through the campaign. So definitely something to consider, and allows you to continually make interventions in order for you to get to where you need to be by the end. So TrueView, that happened for us. We got a really good CPV. So in terms of planning, you know, we use benchmarks in the industry based on really good quality ads versus really bad ads. And we actually beat our benchmarks. So people liked Kenneth, and we were then awarded by having a really low CPV, which was music to the ears of our procurement department. This is a summary of everything else that was going on as far as AOD and display. And one of the biggest learnings that I got out of this was that if you're trying to drive views, which we ultimately were, go and use Google Display Network, all of the lightbox options, use Audience on Demand, where you can actually show the video in its entirety in a native format. If you want to just drive brand awareness, stick banners everywhere. You know, the impressions that these guys delivered were huge, but look at the views. Barely any views came through the banners. What we did get was half of our total number of views coming from AOD. So that's a great way of actually driving views of your hero content. Let's leave you, take this in. So a novel approach. We were able to actually go after images which were tagged with cold and flu terms, and then serve up the ad to Kenneth. So just another way of actually making sure we were relevant to our consumers in the right time. BuzzFeed. So I mentioned that we'd talk through BuzzFeed. This was going to be our way of driving shareability. When we set off, we hoped that Kenneth would be inherently shareable. It turned out that BuzzFeed, who are the experts, produced content specific for this campaign that drove engagement rates and shares way out in front of what we could have ever hoped for. And just some learnings that we got. We produced 3 articles. 27 thoughts that will cheer you up when you're sick was the top performing by far. So we were always trying to determine what the right level of branding was in these articles. If you want content shared, use something that people are talking about already. People were tagging each other in that BuzzFeed article. Anyone that was sick at that time, they'd be tagging them. And we got really good numbers on the back of that. Dwell time. So you will all probably look at your website data and go, why is everyone just leaving my site within 1 minute? Look at those dwell times that we got from BuzzFeed. That shows real sheer engagement from consumers. Up to 10 minutes nearly for the one. It's incredible. So we're definitely doing BuzzFeed again. And just as a shout out to them, they worked very, very quickly. Agency briefed, and then they came back with articles within a week. So yeah, very, very pleased with that. Twitter, so the handle was live and kicking throughout the winter period, and we had Kenneth alongside some well-written tweets then from our copywriters. And again, here are the responses that we got. 50-50, either way, some loved it, some hated it, but it's great to get a response, right? So campaign summary. A lot of numbers there, but if I can say one thing, it was a resounding success. So the business took a risk. We met our sales objective, which for the first time for Otrivine in several seasons actually happened. So we got kudos there with our business. We exceeded expectations in some of the channels. In others, didn't do so well. So we know now what to fix going into next season. Earned, 5% of Kenneth views were earned. We didn't know whether or not, we were going to achieve 30%. That was a benchmark that was banded around for a while. We got 5%. We haven't solved that problem, right? So what makes content shareable? BuzzFeed seemed to know, and I'd advise you to work with the experts there. We had a competitor complaint. It was interesting. So the morning that Kenneth went live, so I had a phone call from our trade association saying, Gareth, I shouldn't be telling you this, but yeah, they've been in touch. So it got out. News broke, right? So within a couple of hours of people turning on their laptops, our competitor over at X picked up their phones and then said that they were going to be starting the process of actually managing a complaint. My business really dealt with that well. They didn't panic. We just came together as a collective and we worked on then the response, and we won. There was no comeback in the end, and we were able to continue with Kenneth until April. 32 consumer complaints. Now, I've shown you how many impressions we got, and I've shown you how many views of Kenneth we got. To just get 32 consumer complaints is nothing. They were all along the same lines, which was from parents, predominantly, who weren't happy with the fact that there was a bare chest on their YouTube account. So, we then sent back personalised responses, and we, won their favour back. So I wouldn't be too concerned about doing something that is risque, because that's all you get from consumers. They're now, you're speaking to people that have got the whole internet to play with. There's far worse things out there than what you've just seen. We got earned media within The Guardian. So The Guardian is a big newspaper over in the UK, and it actually picked us up. They review ads on a regular basis, and they found Kenneth. It was unsolicited, it was truly earned, and it actually generated reaction amongst consumers. We had a whole chain of people going, no, it's terrible, to yes, it's fantastic, arguing with each other. So, we picked up a load of free earned coverage on the back of that. And since, we've been asked as a team back in GSK to actually use this then as a case study. So we went 100% digital. The guidelines from our brand leaders are that you do a bit of everything, you keep a reserve budget, you test and learn. But in our instance, we were able to fast track that and go 100% digital. And I've just shown you that our brand is in the best health that it's been for several years. So we're going to do the same again next year. There's the Guardian article, and here is the anonymised complaint letter, which look away now, please. So I told you that my theme was all about not knowing how people are going to react, but it's a lot of fun, finding out how they react. And that's what it was with Kenneth. We knew that we had something that was interesting. We thought maybe that we'd got it wrong and it was too repulsive, but I think we got the balance. Like my dress code, I think we got the balance, and we did it well. So I leave you with the extra piece of content that a lot of people then clicked on the masthead and went on and saw. So this is good Kenneth versus bad Kenneth.
My underwear is too tight. I have an extra soft mattress. I never take the stairs. They've named an emotion after me. I never learned to skateboard. My dentist admires me. I've never been promoted. My life's a parade at a carnival. I don't believe in Christmas. I've got 12 passports. I've never worn socks. I remind myself of silk. Yeah, I've had bad times, but also I've had really bad times. I use Otrivine.
So Kenneth is an absolute superstar, and do wish him well if you do see him. So that really concludes my talk. There is still time. If anyone's got any questions, then I'd be more than happy to answer them. I've been very shy today. Oh. We didn't do anything offline, but in terms of what we did in store, then we made sure that our shopper activation plan then resembled this campaign. So there were links to that in Tesco's, in Boots, etc. But as far as above the line, it was all digital.
Do you have any insights why your display advertising didn't perform as well as...
I think we set the wrong benchmarks. So we thought it could drive views, but in fact it was just good for getting the impressions, and we should have linked it more closely then with awareness metrics.
Did you do any surveys to look at awareness of this campaign with your target market versus and compare that to when you've done traditional TV campaigns?
Yeah, so we run brand tracking on a yearly basis within the company. We then set up a specific research that ran whilst the digital campaign was live. So we are able to look back, and we have shifted awareness levels, and we did so whilst, and this was an interesting learning, whilst the big channels were firing on all cylinders, and once it was the height of the cold and flu season. So awareness levels when people are ill were much higher than even later in the campaign when we were still active. We weren't really doing as much. But where my biggest learning is the brand lift survey that you run with YouTube is the place to start, really.
Do you think a digital campaign can hit the reach that a TV campaign can hit?
Yeah, so So the question was whether or not a digital campaign can have the same reach as a TV. So that was our key question to address early on. And the guys at Google and our partners at Starcom helped us answer that. So we had to be really honest and say that TV in the short term will drive awareness within a couple of weeks. But what YouTube TrueView allowed us to do was build it over a series of months. And we actually got to a point where we were ahead of TV on the same budget. Any more for any more?
So you transitioned very quickly from offline onto digital. Was it difficult to get sign-off internally to do that so quickly?
No, because everything was working against us. And so we had to then take a risk. But as far as the stakeholder alignment piece, the hardest bit was getting the global team to allow us to produce Kenneth. As far as a reason to believe in doing digital versus TV, based on, we had media mix modeling research that told us that we weren't getting a return for Otrivine on TV, so there was that. We had then the brand tracker that we ran telling us that the TV copy was actually being misattributed to Sudafed. That was another argument that we took. And as I mentioned, it was a case of, we could get more bang for our buck with YouTube if we created something good. And those were really the three key arguments that convinced in the end.
I was going to ask, how much would you attribute to the media and how much would you attribute to the creative?
Oh yeah, quantity versus quality. So the question was, how much would you attribute to the media and how much would you attribute to the creative? It's a really good question. I think the media, we spoke to more people last season than we've ever spoken to before. What we didn't do is actually bring the power treater into the brand to the levels that we were hoping for, right? So when we've looked back and said, well, was the creative right or were the media choices wrong? And where we've come to is that I think for next year, the media choices were in fact right. We're just now going to tweak, so we use the bigger channels, so the YouTube TrueView, concentrate less on some of the bits in and around it, and make sure that the creative doesn't necessarily put half of our target audience off.
And then a second question, why wasn't the first creative you showed
The Thug Life. Okay, so I'm glad you asked that because the question was why was Thug Life not approved, yet Kenneth was. And it was all about involving people and making them feel part of it. And we've all been there, done that. But now going into a new company, and the people I'm working with, it's faceless. I haven't been able to establish a relationship with these guys. I haven't got them to actually listen to why and get any form of buy-in. So it's a case of, will you approve this, please, as opposed to months of bringing people along the journey with you. And that Thug Life video will get out there. I just got to find a way of convincing people.
How did you come up with the storyline?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
How did you come up with the storyline?
The storyline, stop messing about.
No, the whole story of Kenneth and...
Oh, right, okay, yeah, I probably didn't explain that. So this product is a menthol product. So as far as what we did as a marketing team, we declared that our source of business was going to be other menthol topical decongestants. We had, in the UK, there's Vicks, which is the rub, which you'll see there, the menthol tub rub. Then there's Olbus oil, and we just sized up the opportunities. We made sure that the barrier to trial was less for the one that we opted for, and that's why we zoned in on the menthol tubber rub. And then the fact of the story was that our insight was all about the notion of mistreatment. So this is a spray. It works really effectively. So why the hell are you in your office deciding to actually apply some menthol tubber rub onto your chest when you could just use this? So that's where the idea was born out of. Does that answer your question?
And then did you go about doing it with an agency, or who created it?
Oh, right. Okay, so we worked with the creative agency within Starcom, and then with Google then to bring it to life then.
Thank you.
That's right. Okay. Thank you very much for listening.